Okay, so back to the piece of clay that I grabbed. As always, first thing I'm going to do is knead and wedge my clay. This is a little bit more clay than I worked with yesterday, or I'm sorry, last class for our coils, or for our coil and for our slab. So I'm actually able to kind of knead and wedge it on the table just a little bit. Some tables, like this canvas surface, will dry out your clay really quick. So as mentioned before, it's always important to add a little bit of water as you work. Sometimes it's helpful to add just a tiny bit while you're in the kneading and wedging phase, because that's going to help mix the water into your clay. Be careful not to add too much, because if you add too much, instead of making your clay softer, it's just going to make it a big muddy mess on the outside. Since I added some water, it might take me a little longer to knead and wedge it. Again, I'm trying not to fold the clay over like a wave. I'm trying to just kind of smush everything that's in there together. Oh, and my clay's coming together so nicely. It's getting super soft, kind of gummy and squishy. It's gonna work out really nice for creating the pinch pot we're about to make. Okay, kind of rolling mine into a ball type shape. So this is about how much clay I grabbed. Let's see, how can I make this kind of into a reference? So if you were to take a ruler, this ball of clay is about, what is that, 1.5 inches wide? Maybe 1 3/4. I'm also trying to read this on my screen, which is backwards, so give me a break. But about a little less than 2 inches wide, 2 inches in diameter. There we go. But you'll be surprised. This is going to make a bowl that is a little bit bigger than that for sure. So once you have kneaded and wedged your clay, you then roll it into a ball just like I'm doing here. And then you're going to take your thumb and push it right in the middle. Where's a good angle? Right in the middle of your ball of clay. You don't want your thumb to go all the way through the clay. What we're doing is we're just creating an opening so we can pinch the walls and turn that into a bowl. Now you will notice I have very long nails, like many of you probably do as well. So instead of using my thumb, there's a few things you can do if you're in the same boat that I am. You can use the back side of a pencil. You can use your knuckle if you really try to angle it quite a bit. You know, anything that you can kind of poke in there to create a hole like your finger will be helpful. You can use your thumb if you have long nails, but it might give you more difficulty too along the ways. So I'm going to start by trying to use my knuckle. I'm supporting the outsides of it to make sure it doesn't do anything too crazy. And you'll have something that kind of looks like this. If you were able to use your thumb, which is probably the majority of you guys, the hole is of course going to be a little less wide and the edges are going to look a little fatter, which is totally fine. You're right on track. Okay, you want to make sure that the hole that you just poked in, again, does not go all the way through. The space between the bottom of this and the bottom down here should be about maybe, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so. After you've poked the hole down the middle, you've started creating your pinch pot. Now you're going to do the pinching method that gives the pinch pot its name. So this is kind of tricky to get you guys a good angle, but I'm trying. I'm taking my thumb and I'm putting it on the inside of my pinch pot. And I'm taking my pointer finger and other fingers if you prefer and putting them on the outside of my pinch pot. Then when I quite literally pinch, it's going to make that section of the wall a little bit thinner. Be sure that you slowly and consistently work your way all the way around the pinch pot. You want to thin it out very evenly, not too abruptly, or you're going to have issues. If you have nails, the inside of your bowl is going to look something like this for a little while. That's okay. Just do your best to try to not let the holes go all the way through. Take your time. Some people feel tempted to work with it on a tabletop and do this. But the problem with doing that is you're not going to necessarily get a pinch pot. You'll get something that instead of having this kind of shape on the bottom, it'll have this kind of shape on the bottom. It'll be more squared off because it'll be flat on the tabletop. The goal with the pinch pot is to work with it in your hands, not on the tabletop. So I'm going slowly all the way around, pinching the sides evenly. Don't forget the very bottom. If the base is still kind of thick, continue to pinch that to make it a little thinner as well. Your goal is so that every area of your pinch pot, the sides, the bottom, everything, is 1/4 of an inch, just like the slab that we made yesterday. If your pinch pot starts getting a little too flat, that means you should start adding more pressure on the outside than on the inside. If your pinch pot is flat, that means you're having too much pressure on the inside. Mine is a little on the flat side right now. Now, if your pinch pot is too upright, which is a lot more rare to see, that means that you do need to add more pressure on the inside. Yes. So mine was a little flat, so I'm adding a little bit more pressure on the outside, kind of cupping all of this upwards to try to change the shape just a little. Sometimes if you get too far into your mistake, it can be a little tricky to fix it. Sorry guys, I'm trying to play around with different angles here so you guys can see it pretty well while I work on it. Now I'm kind of cupping the outside as it's getting a little bigger with my hand, and that should help guide the form or the shape a little bit more. As I'm pinching it, if I feel any areas that are a little thick, I press a little harder on them, or maybe take a little bit of a longer time on them. If I feel an area that's kind of thin, then I leave it alone. Especially now that my walls are getting nice and thin, you want to be very careful that you don't overly thin out any areas. I'm noticing the base of mine is a little thick, so I'm starting to smooth, or not smooth, but flatten that out. It's working out very nicely. It's going to get a little fragile as it gets thin, so start taking your time, going slower, applying a lot less pressure. You'll get to a point where you know you're just kind of doing the fine details. You're kind of flattening out the areas that are just a little too thick. This will probably take you guys a little bit more time than me. I may have had a bit of practice making pinch pots for a while now, so take your time, not a problem. As you're going to, you'll probably notice that your project has quite a few cracks. That's totally natural. The drier your clay is, the more likely you're going to have cracks. If you have any cracks that are so deep that they're pretty much breaking your pinch pot, I don't have any of those, but you'll know if you do. What you might want to do is start from scratch. So knead and wedge your clay. Make sure that all your clay is really connected. If you do have a crack that goes all the way down your piece and it's breaking there, that likely means that when you were kneading and wedging your clay, it did overlap like a wave. So remember, if you have a large crack that breaks your pinch pot, start from scratch, knead and wedge. Make sure you knead and wedge really well, maybe add a little water to it, and start from scratch. What I'm going to do with all of these tiny little cracks is I'm going to fix them up with the spoon tool that was included in our clay kits. So the spoon tool works really well like a tool we have in class called our rib tool. You can use it to smooth out clay really well. So you see how I'm just kind of like scraping and kind of smushing very lightly this one area. It's starting to smooth it out really well. If you're having some difficulty with some cracks, you can also dip your spoon in just a little bit of water, and you'd be surprised, a little bit of water goes a long way to help you smooth out areas of your clay. Use caution though. It is very common for people to use too much water very easily, and then their clay gets weak and it falls apart on them. So just a little bit of water can be helpful to help you smooth out the clay. So I'm not going to smooth out this entire pinch pot for sake of your time, so you have time to work on it yourself. But that kind of shows you the process of how to smooth it out anyhow. You will want to smooth out your entire outside of your pinch pot, and you might even want to smooth out, or you will want to smooth out, especially if you have long nails, the inside of your pinch pot. This can be a little trickier on the inside, but take your time. You can also get to a point where you could even smooth it out with your fingertips. Much easier for those of you guys that don't have the long nails like me. And see how smooth that gets. The lip, the top lip, is another area you will want to smooth out, which is this entire edge. A lot of cracks will generally start from the top lip. So make sure you get that all smoothed out. If your project starts cracking a lot as you're getting started, you might have to stop and smooth it out before your bowl is even finished, just to make sure everything's attached enough to move forward. So mine is not done, but when yours is done, the entire inside should be very smooth, the entire lip should be very smooth, and the entire outside should be very smooth. Additionally, the entire pinch pot all around should only be 1/4 inch thick. Remember, 1/4 inch is, where is it? Upside down. 1/4 inch is about that thick. All right, so I hope this helps. Enjoy finishing up making your pinch pot. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to get this piece all wrapped up. Okay, so once your pinch pot is all wrapped up, what you'll be doing for this assignment is take a photo of the slip that you've started making and have not yet stirred, and your pinch pot that you just made. One photo, submit that photo for your Google Classroom Clay Lesson number 2 assignment. Then, when you're done submitting that photo, take your slip, set it aside, save it for next class, and you can take your pinch pot and store it. So we won't let this dry out in the open air just yet. What I'd like you to do is try to keep this clay completely fresh. So you will be taking your trash bag that was in your clay kit and putting your pinch pot inside of it. Okay, so pinch pot goes way to the inside of your trash bag, way at the base. And then just like your clay that is stored elsewhere right now, if you want to keep clay fresh, you want to make sure you minimize the amount of air in the bag. So the less air contact, the fresher this pinch pot will stay. So notice how the pinch pot is in there. I've gotten rid of a lot of the air that would be in there, and I've twisted the bag shut. Then I'm going to let the pinch pot sit on all of the excess area of the bag. This should keep air from getting in there. You might be tempted to wrap your bag in a knot. I do not recommend that because oftentimes the knot is very hard to get undone at a later date. So once your pinch pot is in the bag, go ahead and set that to the side as well. We will be checking that out at a later date, and hopefully it does not dry out on us. So that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. I will see you next time for clay lesson number 3. Take care.